Hi, Kylie here and welcome to my plan with me for February. As you can see, it's a pop-up month. So for any of you who haven't watched any of these before, I occasionally do title pages that are pop-ups. This is what the mechanism is going to look like, but I don't do it until the end of the video because it actually gets quite bulky and it's not evenly bulky, so it creates lots of folds that you're trying to draw over. So I just leave it till the end because that makes life easier. So February, I want to say thank goodness January's over. I don't know why January drags. It's sort of like a non-month. For us in Australia, we're in like holidays, so you're still in school holidays, and that naturally means that not much sort of happens because people are still off with their kids or doing whatever, and it's just a really weird month. Added to that, we've had, of course, a COVID outbreak here, so that's made it an even weirder month. But we'll leave that alone and move on to my bullet journal for February. So I know I said the last time I was going to stick to the same theme as last year. So last year I did the night sky for February and I sat down to try and work out what I was going to do and how this was going to look, and that's great, and was so uninspired that I decided I needed to change the theme. So I'd been looking through stuff for something else and came across this scientific drawing of mushrooms and went, that looks really great, like lots of different color and texture and shapes and all sorts of things. So I chose mushrooms. And this, nature alone is antique and the oldest art a mushroom, is probably the only quote that I heard that was actually a halfway decent quote for mushrooms. It's from Thomas Carlyle. I forgot to write this in when I was doing the video, so I have fixed that because everything needs attribution. So Thomas Carlyle it is. So on to the trackers, still doing, of course, my health and my mood trackers. I'm not sure quite how effective these are at reminding me, particularly the health tracker, of reminding me to do the things. But I do know that, like, when I sit there and look and go, I haven't taken my vitamin D in a week, then I will actually be prompted to remember to do that. So they're probably a good thing as well. Little mushroom doodles for my mood tracker. These are really quite cute to draw. Like, I strongly encourage you, if you haven't drawn mushrooms, really get stuck into it. They're a lot of fun and they're pretty simple, like, once you start playing with it. And they don't have to be like, none of these are scientifically accurate, let's be clear. I'm not doing scientific drawings. That's not what's going on here. And I've probably made them the wrong colors and I've put wrong things, and definitely none of these things grow anywhere near each other, I'm sure of it. But I don't care. That's not what my journal is about. This is just a bit of a sketching practice, and it's drawing something cute, which actually sort of came out pretty cute. So I'm only showing you 1 week of layout, so drawing the layout for this first week, because this one came out really super cute and I'm very happy with it, so I'm going to show you it. The rest, I mean, I'm happy with the rest of them, but I just don't really think that there's a lot of value to you seeing me drawing them. And because there's a pop-up, I'm actually going to spend a little bit of time explaining to you how to put the pop-up together. And that's because I've scanned that in and I'm giving it to you as a printable. So if you want to play along and actually create a little pop-up, it doesn't need to be in your bullet journal, it can just be in some other book, then you can do that. So yeah, because I'm taking the time to do that, you're only getting 1 week of layout. This one, I was really happy. I was actually just going to leave it in black pen, but then I decided, go on, we'll add a little bit of tone and texture. But I decided to just monotone it. So we're just all using one color for all of this. And again, for anyone who uses watercolors, it's how much paint versus how much water gives me the different texture and colors and everything else. So yeah, I'm very happy. I'm very happy with how this came together, and I'm chuffed to share it. Occasionally I do things that I really like, so I'm sharing them. This is what it's about. So let's get on to the pop-up then. Now, I've really sped up the whole process of painting and outlining the pop-up because, quite frankly, no one needs to watch anything near an hour and a half of my time doing all of this, because this one I did treat more like it really is a very much a practice, and I wanted to get it right, you know, whereas what I do in the sketchbook itself is normally done pretty quickly, and I'm a little bit sort of slap happy with colour, as has been proven at times. But this I spent a little bit of time making sure I got it right, which means it is sped up 3,000%. So you're getting a very, very simplistic impression about how long this actually took me to do. But yeah, doing the mushrooms is really quite, like I said, it's quite cute. There's so many different shapes and textures and everything that can be done. And then you can make them any colour you want them to be. I mean, I know in nature, some of these things are similar colours, but seriously, they're probably not even close to the colour that I've actually represented them as. And I don't care, because this is creative practice. Like I said, I'm not drawing these for scientific reasons, so it's all good. So what this mechanism is this top one that you can see is a V-fold. So as simple as it sounds, it creates a V. And if you have watched any of my other videos, I often use V-folds. They are the simplest thing you can do in pop-up world. They're really very easy, even though you will watch me screw this up twice before I get it right. And I'll talk about that when it happens. But we've got a V-fold, and that will sit at the back. And then we've got these 3 other mushrooms or mushroom groups that will sit in front of that, and they'll be lifted up. So they'll be pulled up by a little mechanism that you'll put between the V-fold and the mushroom, so that when the V-fold lifts itself, because it naturally does that because it's stuck to either side of the page, so as you pull it apart, it wants to lift up, then these things will naturally lift up as well, and you'll get a whole little scene. So that's what it is. So yeah, not incredibly complex, but you know, enough complexity to make it fun. I try not to make them overly complex. I have done a couple of pop-up courses and done some really complex mechanisms, but they've been designed by other people, and so I generally do things that are pretty simple in that respect. So in the printable, which you'll be able to get from my website, and I'm not even going to make you subscribe to my mailing list for it. This one I'm just going to sort of make available, but it's probably, yeah, that won't happen all the time. So if you are interested, then you do need to subscribe to my mailing list, and definitely do something to stop my email ending up in spam. So it'll have lines that show you where to cut and lines that'll show you where to fold. So it'll be pretty obvious how to put this together. When you are folding pop-up mechanisms, you really need to make sure that you get those creases really tight. It's part of how it works, like the creases add power to the movement. So if they're really sloppy creases, then you just don't get that power. So it's just an important thing to go through and do. So like I said, that one folds into a V. So folds in half. These ones I've put little tabs on the bottom which aren't essential for the mechanism that we're doing, but it will help them rise. And then those 3 bits of paper, I will show you what we'll do with them when we get into it here. So all the elements and the lifters, risers, whatever, I'm sure they have a name, I just honestly cannot remember it. So what we need to do is put tape or glue onto the tabs. Now, I use double-sided tape. I use it because it's a little bit neater. I also use it because it's a bit forgiving, and you know, you can easily take the whole thing off and start again if something goes really awry. I'm sure that glue works just as effectively. Some of the people that I watch on YouTube that do it use glue. But I like the double-sided tape. The first course that I did around pop-ups, that's what she uses, and I guess I've just gotten used to it. Now, I'm doing this really quickly because you'll watch me do it twice wrong, and this is where we know Kylie was really tired when she was doing this, because it just didn't work. This is how you should do it, okay? So get it really tight into the fold. Put it on the angle that you want. You can put it on any angle you want, but for what we're doing, you want it to be fairly straight. You don't want it to be a really tight V. And then just fold the other side over, and that will then naturally stick that other side where it needs to be based on what mechanism you've created and all the right angles. So stick one side in and then fold it, like just leave the mechanism sat and fold the paper over, and it will stick the other side where it needs to be. For some reason, I had it folded inside out the first time. Like I said, who knows? It's interesting, like how you can do something so many times, and then like you're just sitting there and your brain gets stuck in no, this is the right way to do it. And the minute that I stuck it down, it was the wrong angle. I'm like, no, this is wrong. But my brain couldn't work out what was wrong. So there you go. we end up with me getting it wrong twice before I finally get it right. Now, I'm going to show you how to do the risers because, again, I'd sort of cut these without really sort of working out where they were going to stick onto the image behind. And I'd made them too high, so they're really quite obscuring the image, so they're stuck over bits and pieces. So what you do is work out how far away you want it to be. That's what the left-hand tab is, like length is how far away from that image it's going to be. And then you fold the other side over to match it, and then we fold the whole thing entirely in half. What this does is gives you two sides so it gives you a rectangle where two sides are the same length as each other, because you need that to all be the same. Now, I haven't creased this properly, which I'll do as I start adding tape onto it, because again, folds are important. But what we do is we tape this end, so you tape the open ends. So we tape this end, which will stick down onto the actual bullet journal itself. And then you tape the opposite end, which is going to stick onto the V-fold. So it will stick onto the mushrooms. And this is where I worked out that my creases aren't nearly as tight as my creases need to be. So it's the best way of doing it, just fold it over. If you have a scorer, like I used when I was folding the other stuff, particularly if you're using thicker paper, a scorer is fantastic. Otherwise, you can just use your fingernails, or you could use, some other flat object in order to do that. So trim it all up, because you don't want any overhanging, because if you have tape just hanging around, something's going to stick to it. Chances are it's the other side of the page and you'll stick your pages shut. So, as I said, it gets sort of stuck down on the page, and this, I realized it was thicker than it needed to be. So this guy's going to go around about here. So what we want to do is stick that bottom bit and then fold it over and stick that bit on. Okay. So pull off the covering of the double-sided tape, stick it down. Now it needs to be on, like, flat against, so it will be on an angle because it needs to be on an angle. And then take the tape off and stick it on the low side. Now you can either just line it up and stick it like that, or when I do the third one, I'm going to do it slowly again for you, and you'll see there's a different way that you can just basically leave it flat and close it in on itself. So we need to put a little bit of tape on the end here for the mushroom to stick onto. And again, I sort of had it sticking up a little bit, so I was going to end up with some sticky stuff that didn't need to be there, and something was going to end up sticking to something that it shouldn't have stuck to. Then these tabs fold in front. Okay, so whereas the tab for the V-fold folds behind, these ones fold in front. And that's because it's naturally wanting to lift itself up a little bit anyway. So it's just helping the mechanism. So then you just fold it down on itself. So stick it really close to that lifter or that riser, but then just fold it flat and it will naturally stick where you need it to stick. So go through and do that. We've got the next one, which will speed up. This one I'm a little unhappy with. I should have just taken the time to actually make it shorter, because it does stick over that that sort of cap mushroom quite a bit in the back, and so I'm a little bit unhappy with how much it obscures that. But you know, quite frankly, I'd already been doing my bullet journal for hours and I just wanted it finished. So yeah, that's what it's going to be, and that's perfectly fine because it's just my bullet journal. But yeah, you'll see that when I show the finish mechanism anyway. All right, so stick that one down really hard against the edge and on the right angle, because if you get all that wrong, all the folds are going to be wrong and it's not going to be happy. Now, the other way to do it is just sit this down flat, hold it down. So hold it down a little bit and then fold the page onto it. And that means you're going to make sure that it's definitely in the right place and you're not getting it a little bit off on angle or anything else, which will make it bunch up and fold weirdly and all that sort of stuff. And again, the last mushroom in front is basically fold it in together, stick it down on the page really in tight, and then fold the page down on itself. So fold the mechanism down on itself. And just give everything a really good push down to make sure it's all tight. And that's it. So as you can see, it's pretty simple. It's not a very complex sort of mechanism. You can definitely cut the shapes out and make it yourself. It's really not all that problematic. But like I said, you can go to my website to get a printable of this that you can play with and watch the video again to, you know, follow along how it sort of goes if you've not done it before. So here is my bullet journal for February. As you can see, it's pretty colourful. Well, probably not that page, but the rest of them. So yeah, February looks like it's going to be a pretty busy month, trying to get a heap of things done, and it's amazing how much difference that lack of 2 or 3 extra days is, but here it is, and I hope you all have a lovely February, and thank you very much for being here and watching, and don't forget to go to the website if you're interested in getting the printables for the pop-up. Thanks again.